Hi, it's nice to be here today. Good to see a lot of new faces. I'm looking forward to doing some networking again to all know you a bit afterwards at the bar around back. I want to start off just by asking a couple of questions, getting a show of hands. How many people, well, raise your hand if you are thinking about starting your first business? If you haven't done it before but you're thinking about doing it. Yeah, a few here. Excellent, excellent. And raise your hand if you have either run a business in the past or if you already run a business. Quite a few here, that's great. So as the people who've raised their hands will probably know, I would also want to ask those same people, raise your hand if you've come across some kind of minor or even major disaster, some kind of adversity, something that's been a stressful time or a barrier towards you, between you and success.
Every week.
Exactly, exactly. And that gets me exactly to the point that I was going to make. As all business owners know, and you great people who are looking to start your own business will soon know, is just like in life, running a business is full of adversity. Constantly we're bombarded with things that are getting in our way, bad times, things that you think, you know, oh my God, how am I going to get out of this? And your ability as an entrepreneur to be able to roll with the punches and to be able to actually succeed is based on your ability and how successful you are on taking those events and making them, finding the best out of them. And instead of having them control you, instead of being reactive, being proactive. So I want to basically talk about how bunting, which I'll get onto shortly, got started. This goes back to late 2011, and I was just starting up another business running, because I've run them for many years, running just a web design company, and I wanted to try and franchise it and grow it that way. And as most companies do, I started with pay-per-click advertising. Now, for the people who don't know what pay-per-click advertising is, that's when you type into something on Google and you see the ads down the top and the right, and if you are the advertiser and somebody clicks on your ad, then you, the advertiser, pay a small fee or a large fee depending on how much competition there is. Now, I started advertising on pay-per-click. At the time, I didn't have a great deal of money. In fact, I didn't have much at all, as is the case with entrepreneurialism. Usually, it's a battle from day one. But what happened was everything was going fine. A couple of months in, profits were going up, new customers coming in. Excellent, A-OK. Not a problem there. However, almost overnight, the amount of money I was spending, the amount of money Google was charging me suddenly rocketed. But with no seeming raise in sales, no raise in inquiries, all of a sudden it just rocketed, skyrocketed. And I was thinking, I went into a mini panic, a bit of a meltdown. I was thinking, oh my God, what am I going to do here? You know, all of a sudden, what was formerly a nice stable pay-per-click campaign, advertising campaign that was bringing me in pretty much my only stream of customers, was suddenly become non-viable. It couldn't be sustained. And this was terrible. This was like almost business failing type bad. But I wanted to know why. And so what I did was I did some investigation and I started investigating, okay, why has my pay-per-click gone up? Why all of a sudden the amount of money I'm spending rocketed? And what I did is I found out that I would become the victim of what's called click fraud. Now, click fraud is when a malicious person, usually almost 9 times out of 10 a competitor, goes onto Google, types in your search term and then starts clicking on your ads. Now, when you're looking at £3 to £4 per click, basically if somebody goes on and goes tick, 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 5 times, it's just cost you a small fortune. And if they're doing that day after day after day after day, it can start to spiral. And it got to the point where I was spending 200 quid a month to spending 1,000 quid a month. Now, obviously this was putting my whole business in jeopardy. So how should I have responded to that? I mean, this diabolical situation that you wouldn't have thought really how could you bring anything good out of it? How would you handle it? Well, what happened, the way around it, and like I say, with all you good people here, are you going to have your own adversities or have had your own adversities? The best way to overcome it, I found, was simply not to get angry, not to get upset and look at every situation rationally. Now, that's easier said than done. There's many times where I was screaming at the monitor, or I was going to sleep at night thinking about it, or I was waking up in the morning thinking about it, and it got to the point where it was more or less dominating my business. My focus was no longer on growing the business, but trying to figure out why this was happening to me. It was a very dark period. And I came to the realization that there was a way around it. There's a way that I could stop getting angry. The thing is, with us entrepreneurs, we're very passionate. We want to do something amazing with our life. We want to be, the way I look at it, I want to be on my deathbed kind of thing, so to speak, and I want to look back at my life and know I've really put everything into it, that I haven't wasted it. And I think that's probably the same with everybody here. I'm very much sure of that. But the problem is, we throw so much of our time into our business, but we also throw our personality into our business. Can everybody relate to that? You put your personality, and it's an extension of who you are as a person. So when somebody attacks your business, it no longer becomes personal. It becomes hurtful, and you start questioning, why are they after me, and you start victimizing yourself, and you get angry. And anger and victimization and doubt and frustration are all just your ego, your ego basically coming out of you. It's another way of looking at it. But I realised that this person who was attacking me, whoever it was, this person who was costing me thousands of pounds clicking ads time after time, day after day, almost without relent, wasn't attacking me. To them, they were my obstacle, they were my problem. But to them, I was their obstacle, I was their problem. They wanted not to attack me because it's me, because they didn't like me or anything else. They wanted to attack me because they simply wanted to get me out of the equation. They wanted to spend all my advertising spend so that they could get their advertising spend in place. And as soon as I thought that, as soon as that mindset changed, I could change it from being a very personal thing, where I was thinking emotionally as a human being, into being a much more stable, logical and rational thought process. And I started thinking, okay, how can I make the most out of this situation? So what I did is I wrote a piece of software, because I'm a software developer by trade. I have been for the past 10 years. And I wrote a piece of software that planted a cookie on this fella's machine. And over the next 2 to 3 months, and a load more money wasted, I tracked this person's movements, the time of the day they were going on, where roughly geographic location they were going on, so on and so forth, to monitor the movements, to try and figure out how that I can find out who it is and I can stop it happening. Because I couldn't complain to Google won't listen. And I couldn't take it to court because the courts don't frankly care. It's not practical. As anybody who's taken someone to court knows, it's just not practical, unless you're talking millions of pounds. So what I did is I tracked this person until I finally, with a bit of creative digital detective work, found out who it was. And as soon as I made it clear that I knew who it was a local competitor who was trying to stop me advertising, they more or less stopped overnight. However, this set a seed in my mind. What it did is it gave me an idea. As all us entrepreneurs know, all it takes is an idea, and then you start laying in bed at night thinking about it. What if this? What if that? What if I do that? Oh my God, it was so amazing. I'll take over the world. All this type of stuff. So I turned it into my goal, and I thought to myself, there's got to be other people who are suffering click fraud like this. So I turned it into my goal to change it into something that would be, that I could help other people with in the same spot. So I commercialized this, I made it into a viable product, and over the next 6 months, I built a click fraud app out of it. So a service that people could plug into their own websites to monitor and find people if they're being attacked themselves. And I want you to think to yourself what obstacle you are currently facing right now within yourself, and think, what's your initial gut reaction when you think of that obstacle? Maybe it's a competitor, maybe it's somebody who's a lot better at what you do, maybe it's you can't find funding, or that you don't have the means to get started, or some kind of a frustration. And then basically work to depersonalize it within yourself and realize that all it is a fact. This isn't something that's trying to get you personally, and it's nothing to get upset about. As easy as it is to get upset, it's nothing to get upset about. All it is a fact, and it's nothing personal. And when you start to do that, you'll make it easier to start thinking logically about how you can actually overcome that problem. And you'll start becoming a lot more creative, and you'll be a lot happier as a person, and you'll almost certainly go a lot further because you'll turn every opportunity, you won't see it anymore as an obstacle, but as an opportunity to improve yourself, an opportunity to grow as a person, and an opportunity as well to look back at that time, as I do now. I look back at this point in my life, and I'm thankful for it. As hard as it was at the time, I'm thankful for it. So what happened next? Well, 6 months in, I launched the application. Everything was going great. I had quite a few people signing up, good feedback, wonderful. However, I'd overcome one fatal flaw in the business plan that I didn't think about right at the start. And that's that people were signing up for the free trial, and instead of staying for month after month after month, this is wonderful, and I was getting my small percentage, they were using it for the free trial, finding, I don't have any click-through people on my account. Brilliant. And then they were leaving at the end of it, and they weren't buying it because they didn't need to. The job had been done. This was another major concern, another obstacle that I had to overcome. Now, it was different than the first one, Frank, for obvious reasons. It wasn't as personal, but nevertheless, it was frustrating. And it's very easy to be reactive in that situation, considering I'd spent 6 months of my life and a load of savings on it. So it's easy to think, oh my God, oh, this is terrible, oh, woe is me, and all that type of stuff. But instead, what I thought is, because I've got a background in e-commerce, I've worked in e-commerce for 10 years, and I know it pretty well now. I do say so myself. I'm pretty familiar with it. And I was interested, what could I do with this profiling system that I built? It tracks people, monitors the movements around the website. Is there anything I can do with this? And I thought, yeah, I can go into personalized shopping. So what I could do is build an app which would monitor people's movements, completely legally, of course. No, we're not taking any sensitive information or anything like that. Simply looking at what people are looking at to try and figure out, okay, what would they be interested in product-wise? And you see it on Amazon all the time. Every time you say, you may also be interested in. So what I did is I turned this data, this otherwise almost useless business that people were using the free trial and then leaving, into a website personalization tool. And I thought, this is brilliant. This will take me another 6 months. After a year, I'll be live. So that was mid-2013. Fast forward 12 months, not 6, and I was still in beta, and I was just coming out of beta. So at this point, I was 18 months in. I was still, at this point, my finances were almost on the floor because I'd spent all of the money that I had, basically funding my not very enviable lifestyle, and just working around the clock. I was emotionally exhausted. I was just knackered. And I remember one specific day, and I was in Costa Coffee, because at that time I couldn't even afford an office, so I worked out of coffee shops. And I was in Costa Coffee, and I remember I went out to Staples, which is just down the road, and I purchased a notepad, just a little kind of thing like that, jotter, whatever. And I remember I opened it, clean notepad, first page, white new fresh page, and I wrote on the top of it, new business model. And I tried to brainstorm ideas. And after basically a year and a half, I decided that this business that I'd set up, that I'd invested a year and a half, and all my hard work in, all my hopes and all that type of crap in, I decided to give up on it. And it was only a very dark spell. I'd had many dark spells, and that would just happen to be the worst. But I always remember that, because 1 month later, the first corporate client signed up on an account worth about £3,500 a month. And that solved all my problems. And after that, we came out of beta. We started having sign-ups all the time. People were loving the software. It was brilliant. And I almost gave up on it just right there. And again, I was being reactive when I should have looked at the obstacle and thought, this isn't why. I was thinking that day, I was thinking, why me, poor me. I was victimizing when I shouldn't have victimized. I should have looked at it rationally. But the key point is that when you're going into business, you're going to come across these times, and it's going to be so easy, as I'm sure many of you guys are all aware, it's going to be so easy to fall into that trap, of fall into thinking of victimization, of thinking, why is this happening to me, of thinking anger, frustration, resentment for competitors who are better than you. And it's all about looking at those things, whatever the hurdle is, and turning it around, not to be something negative, which is what is innately built into all of us, because that's human nature, but turning it into something positive. Turning it to something that you can build off, or something that you can think, how could I make this better? Is there an opportunity here? And if not an opportunity for a business, like it was in my case, but is there an opportunity just to learn something? It sounds cheesy, but when it's actually happening, it's very hard to think about that sort of advice. It's very difficult, there's no doubt about that. But the great thing is, the more you do it and it becomes habitual, the easier it gets. Starting to find that. So where's bunting today? Well, bunting is now the world's, and we're absolutely sure of it, the world's easiest to use website personalization app. We've got companies customers using it in about 30, 35 countries, something along those lines, all over the world, completely different demographic, there's loads of different types, huge companies, small companies. We had some very large ones like Macy's, check us out, being interested, things like that. So it's doing great, and as you can tell, it looks absolutely drop dead gorgeous. Although I should add, this is an old version. The new version just went live this week, which I'm extremely happy about because it's incredible. And if you guys want to have a try of it, just do it. Sign up for a free trial and have a gander. So it's going fantastic, but does it work? Well, we had a customer sign up. This isn't, I should add, no it isn't, that isn't the actual result. I think I put the wrong slide on there. But we had a customer sign up about 3 months ago, and they run a reasonable size e-commerce business. And they signed up for a contract worth £1,350 a month that they paid to Bunting to use the software application. Within 2 months, they'd raised their projected sales by £970,000 a year. That's a 7,000% return on investment. There's not many businesses that, at least I've ever run before, that do that. So it's immensely exciting. Now, before we move on and before we get sort of close it, after this, we've got Matt and Paul, who are coming on, who have a brilliant product. And I was telling him earlier, I'm an awful golfer, so I'm sure it's the type of thing that would be useful and certainly beneficial to me. But I'm sure they'll have had their own adversities as well, just like I did and just like many of you have and will continue to do so. The key thing to take away from this is that, that's the slide, excuse me. The key thing to take away from this is that try not to be careful of your emotions, because it's not personal. Doesn't matter how personal it seems, like the person attacking me, it's not personal. It's just life, and if you can depersonalize it and look at it for what it is, not as a bad thing but as an opportunity, no matter how bad it seems, then you can only grow as a person. You will be happier and you'll get far more achieved than you ever could otherwise. So thanks for listening, and if you have any questions, then by the way, tweet about us as well, because we've got a Twitter account. So it's pretty cool. So thanks, that's it. So